So today I want to talk to you about a really important meeting. It was my first weekly meeting with my new executive assistant as I'm working through the systems and processes side of my world. So if you're someone who works on your own or struggles with efficiency, struggles with just constantly being busy and having no time, this is going to be really relevant to you. So keep on watching, keep on listening. Welcome back to consecutive day 1828 for Diary of a Runpreneur. And today's episode is all about my first weekly meeting with my new executive assistant and what that means for me from a productivity perspective and a time perspective. So if you're someone who's crazily busy or you don't have any team members around you, but you just find yourself doing absolutely everything, this is going to be really relevant to you. So keep on watching and keep on listening. But before we get into that, don't forget that this is part of a fundraiser of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra-marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, a distance of a lap of the world, barefoot style. And the more people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save. This is why I do this every single day. So back to the topic at hand. My first weekly meeting with my new executive assistant. So I follow a couple of books primarily when it comes to systemization, systems and processes of life, really, not just business, but life. One of them is Systemology by Dave Jenkins, an amazingly good book when you're trying to systemize a business. And the other one is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And that's more kind of predominantly about you as an individual and how you're going to try and get some of your time back, buying it back, basically. And one of the philosophies is to bring in an executive assistant if you haven't already got one. He calls them administrative assistants, but I think they're more than administrative assistants. This is a really highly sought position in my world because it's a very senior position. I like to refer to it similar to in Rocket Fuel, the book by Gina Wickman, a visionary and an integrator. This is an integrator's position, so the executive assistant seems to be the right fit in terms of the role. But to be honest, the role name isn't really relevant. It's the process that's the relevant part. And so this first weekly meeting, so ultimately, what is this executive assistant going to be doing? Well, what they're going to be doing is basically cloning me wherever possible to free me up from as much of the day-to-day stuff that I've been kind of working on for the past few months. And it sounds like a big task to do, and it absolutely is. But if you get it right, the kind of what you start getting back in terms of time is absolutely game-changing. So I identified this individual. She was someone who has worked with me for a while, so I know her already as a part of the team. And that's kind of really helped because the whole trust thing and capability side of things, I have a good understanding of what that's all about already. Just going past some people, so just bear with me a second. And once I had established that she was a good fit for the role, I had a conversation with her, and she expressed a really strong interest to take on the role full time, which was absolute music to my ears. And so once she's kind of has an understanding of what the role involves, it's incredibly broad when you're saying that basically, if you look at an analogy, is I'm like this whirlwind flying about, kind of causing destruction and devastation wherever I go. Well, my executive assistant is the person who comes behind me almost with a sweeping brush, sweeping everything back together and organising everything and re-establishing stability and making sure that nothing's missed. Okay, so that's probably a really good analogy of what an executive assistant should do. And so I went through, had the first weekly meeting today where it was just kind of ensuring that the brief was understood, what was the expectations was understood, the kind of systems and processes we already have in place and the ones that we need to kind of put into place was discussed. And it was a really interesting meeting. So I started by kind of just talking through, you know, how she was feeling about the job, has she kind of had any second thoughts about it, and the answer was no, which was great. And then we moved into kind of what the role entails, and the first thing I wanted to say is that, you know, it's an incredibly intimate role because she's going to know me intimately as well as she already does know me very well. She's worked with me for several years, but on a much more intimate level. So what I mean by that is a personal level. She's going to understand everything about what I do personally, how I operate, how my diary should be managed, what I do, when I do it, all of these kind of little nuances that are pretty private to people generally. She's going to know everything about. She's going to know all my personal correspondence, all of my business related correspondence. She's going to have access to almost everything in my world. Yes, there are security measures you can put in place, but I'll talk about those in a separate episode. But yeah, there's no kind of no areas left untouched really. And so I just explained that, and I said, you know, reality is there's a lot of what we do is great. There's also some things that we do are not so great, and you know, there's going to be things that she has to deal with which aren't particularly pleasant, but there'll also be things that she deals with that are incredibly pleasant, and that's just part and parcel of a life. You get the ebbs and flows, the pros and cons, the ups and downs, and so I kind of framed that already, just so the expectations are already there. We then talked about calendar management and kind of inbox management, inbound communication management. So one of the first things she's going to be doing is taking complete ownership of my calendar and diary, so that anything that's booked in is booked in and around how the rules and schedule that we set based on how my diary should be managed. So what I mean by that is, you know, when my energy levels are predominantly high, I want to be doing highest level type of work. When it's lower, I can be doing things like sales calls and things that help me regain my energy, so to speak. So obviously I run every day, so that has to be factored in. And you know, so somebody else is going to be managing that completely for me. The second thing is inbound communication. So post, emails, social media messages, you name it, WhatsApp messages, you name it, it's going to go through her, so that I'm not disrupted and distracted at any given point throughout the day. I can respond to stuff that's urgent, she can respond to stuff that's not urgent, and it's and that's going to really free me up considerably with distractions that so many of us have to contend with. The next thing we talked was kind of task management, how to work. Well, I do a lot of things via voice, so we built a system so that I can voice note all of the actions that are required, and she goes through them every day and schedules them out to the appropriate people, including herself. And again, that process is absolutely game-changing for me, because it's just another thing that I don't have to do. We then talked about some projects that I wanted her to lead in terms of kind of systemization of one of the new businesses, and had a kind of Q&A where she asked lots of really relevant and valid questions. And instantly today has just flown so much smoother, where I've just felt that whereas usually I'd be anxious about what's coming in, or is it being dealt with, is it being missed, I just felt a huge confidence that somebody else was kind of covering all of that area, the kind of chatter, if you like, of life that, you know, you always fear of missing something important, but having somebody else manage that for you, it just frees up this huge amount of headspace, and that's been absolutely enlightening. So this is very early in the journey. I'm going to keep talking about this because it's been a big eye-opener for me and game-changing for me. I've always been pretty systemized, but not to this kind of degree, so to speak. This is a whole new level of release for me, and my inner control freak has been freaking out. But I suppose the learnings from my diary for today are that if you're somebody who is crazily busy in life, in work, in personal life, and you feel you're doing everything yourself, then the time comes where you have to take a step back and say, do you know what, I need some help, and I need some form of an assistant. And you often think that they're so costly and expensive, but it's more costly than ever to not have one, in my opinion, because you're holding yourself so far back by not having one, and especially a good one. It will take you to levels that you didn't think even existed when you get the right assistant with you. So if you haven't got one, and you're someone who's struggling with all these overwhelming kind of pain points, then definitely consider the process of bringing in an executive assistant. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to work swimmingly overnight. It's a process of continuous improvement, of working together, finding the best ways to do things. But that can be quite intimate between you and your assistant. But the thing you can't afford to do is to not take that step. So I hope that's useful. Any questions or comments, drop me a line. Anything relevant I'll respond to. Do remember though, if you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, a distance of lap the world, barefoot style, do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always, stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you again tomorrow.